Canto 7. Pape Satan, Alep. Plutus began in accents rough and hard, and that mild sage, all-knowing, said to me, for my encouragement, pay no regard unto thy fear. Whatever power he sways, thy passage down this cliff shall not be barred. Then, turning round to that inflamed face, he bade, accursed wolf, at peace remain, and pent within thee let thy fury blaze. Down to the pit we journey not in vain. So rule they where by Michael in heaven's height on the adulterous pride was vengeance ta'en, then as the bellied sails, by wind swelled tight, suddenly drag whenever snaps the mast, such, falling to the ground, the monster's plight. To the fourth cavern so we downward passed, winning new reaches of the doleful shore, where all the vileness of the world is cast. Justice of God! Which pilest more and more pain I saw, and travail manifold. Why will we sin, to be thus wasted sore? As at Charybdis waves are forward rolled, to break on other billows midway met, the people here a counter dance must hold, a greater crowd than I had seen as yet, with piercing yells advanced on either track, rolling great stones to which their chests were set. They crashed together, and then each turned back upon the way he came, while shouts arise, why clutch it so, and why to hold it slack? In the dark circle wheeled they on this wise from either hand to the opposing part, where evermore they raised insulting cries. Thither arrived each, turning, made fresh start through the half-circle, a new joust to run, and I, stung almost to the very heart, said, O my master, wilt thou make it known who the folk are? Were these all clerks who go before us on the left with shaven crown? And he replied, all of them squinted so in mental vision, while in life they were, they nothing spent by rule. And this they show, and with their yelping voices make appear, when halfway round the circle they have sped, and sins opposing them asunder tear, each wanting thatch of hair upon his head, was once a clerk, or pope, or cardinal, in whom abound the ripest growths of greed. And I, O master, surely among all of these I ought some few to recognize, who by such filthy sins were held in thrall. And he to me, vain thoughts within thee rise. Their witless life, which made them vile, now mocks, dimming their faces still, all searching eyes. Eternally they meet with hostile shocks. These rising from the tomb at last shall stand with tight clenched fists, and those with ruined locks. Squandering or hoarding, they happy land have lost, and now are marshalled for this fray, which to describe doth no fine words demand. Know hence, my son, how fleeting is the play of goods at the dispose of fortune thrown, and which mankind to such fierce strife betray. Not all the gold which is beneath the moon could purchase peace, nor all that ever was, to but one soul of these by toil undone. Master, I said, tell thou, ere making pause, who fortune is of whom thou speakest askance, who holds all worldly riches in her claws. O foolish creatures lost in ignorance, he answer made. Now see that the reply thou store, which I concerning her advance. He who in knowledge is exalted high, framing all heavens, gave such as should them guide, that so each part might shine to all, whereby is equal light diffused on every side, and likewise to one guide and governor of worldly splendors did control confide, that she in turns should different peoples dower with this vain good, from blood should make it pass to blood in spite of human wit. Hence power, some races failing, other some amass, according to her absolute decree, which hidden lurks, like serpent in the grass. Vain 'gainst her foresight yours must ever be. She makes provision, judges, holds her reign, as doth his power supreme each deity. Her permutations can no truce sustain. Necessity compels her to be swift, so swift they follow who their turn must gain. And this is she whom they so often lift upon the cross, who ought to yield her praise, and blame on her and scorn unjustly shift. But she is blessed, nor hears what any says, with other primal creatures turns her sphere, jocund and glad, rejoicing in her ways. To greater woe now let us downward steer. The stars, which rose when I began to guide, are falling now, nor may we linger here. We crossed the circle to the other side, arriving where a boiling fountain fell into a brooklet by its streams supplied. In depth of hue the flood did purse excel, and we, with this dim stream to lead us on, descended by a pathway terrible. A marsh, which by the name of Styx is known, fed by this gloomy brook, lies at the base of threatening cliffs, hewn out of cold grey stone. And I, intent on study of the place, saw people in that ditch, mud-smeared. In it all naked, stood with anger-clouded face. Nor with their fists alone each fiercely hit the other, but with feet and chest and head, and with their teeth to shreds each other bit. Son, now behold, the worthy master said, the souls of those whom anger made a prize, and further, I would have thee certified that 'neath the water people utter sighs, and make the bubbles to the surface come, and thou mayst see by castling round thine eyes. Fixed in the mud, they say, we lived in gloom, in the sweet air made jocund by the day, nursing within us melancholy fume. In this black mud we now our gloom display. This hymn with gurgling throats they strive to sound, which they in speech unbroken fail to say. And thus about the loathsome pool we wound, for a wide arc, between the dry and soft, with eyes on those who gulp the filth, turned round. At last we reached a tower that soared aloft. Canto 8. I say, continuing, that long before to its foundations we approached nigh, our eyes went travelling to the top of the tower, for, hung out there, 2 flames we could espy. Then, at such a distance, scarce our eyesight made it clearly out, another gave reply, and to the sea of knowledge turned I said, Who meaneth this? And what reply would yield that other light, and who would have it displayed? Thou shouldst upon the impure watery field, he said, already what approaches know, but that the fen fog holds it still concealed. Never was arrow yet from sharp-drawn bow urged through the air upon a swifter flight than what I saw a tiny vessel show, across the water shooting into sight. A single pilot served it for a crew, who shouted, Art thou come, thou guilty sprite? O Pelagius, Pelagius, this thy loud halloo! For once, my lord said, idle is and vain. Thou hast us only till the mud we're through. And as one cheated inly smarts with pain, when the deceit wrought on him is betrayed, his gathering ire could Pelagius scarce contain. Into the bark my leader stepped, and made me take my place beside him, nor a jot till I had entered was it downward weighed. Soon as my guide and I were in the boat, to cleave thy flood began the ancient prow, deeper than 'tis with others wont to float. Then as the stagnant ditch we glided through, one smeared with filth in front of me arose, and said, Thus coming ere thy period, who art thou? And I, as one who forthwith goes, I come, but thou defiled, how name they thee? I am but one who weeps, he said. With woes, I answered him, with tears and misery, accursed soul, remain. For thou art known unto me now, all filthy though thou be. Then both his hands were on the vessel thrown, but him my wary master backward heaved, saying, Do thou 'mong the other dogs be gone. Then to my neck with both arms he cleaved, and kissed my face, and, soulful disdainful, said, O blessed she in whom thou wast conceived! He in the world great haughtiness displayed, no deeds of worth his memory adorn, and therefore rages here his sinful shade. And many are there by whom crowns are worn, on earth shall wallow here like swine in mire, leaving behind them names o'erwhelmed in scorn. And I, O master, I have great desire to see him well soused in this filthy tide, ere from the lake we finally retire, and he, or ever shall have been descried the shore by thee, thy longing shall be met, for such a wish were justly gratified. A little after in such fierce onset, the miry people down upon him bore. I praise and bless God for it even yet. Philip Argenti at him, was the roar. And then that furious spirit Florentine turned with his teeth upon himself and tore. Here was he left, nor wins more words of mine. Now in my ears a lamentation rung, once I to search what lies ahead begin. And the good master told me, Son, ere long we to the city called of Dis draw near, where in great armies cruel burghers throng. And already, master, I appear mosques in the valley to distinguish well vermilion, and if they from furnace were fresh come. And he, fires everlasting dwell within them, whence appear they glowing hot, as thou discernest in this lower hell. We to the moat profound at length were brought, which girds that city all disconsolate. The walls around it seemed of iron wrought. Not without fetching first a compass great, we came to where, with angry cry at last, Get out, the boatman yelled, behold the gate! More than 1,000 who from heaven were cast I saw above the gates, who furiously demanded who, ere death on him has passed, holds through the region of the dead his way. And my wise master made to them a sign that he had something secretly to say. Then ceased they somewhat from their great disdain, and said, Come thou, but let that one be gone, let him retrace his madcap way alone, if he but can. Thou meanwhile lingering here, through such dark regions who hast led him down. Judge, reader, if I was not filled with fear, hearing the words of this accursed threat. For of return my hopes extinguished were. Beloved guide, who more than 7 times set me in security and safety brought through frightful dangers in my progress met, leave me not thus undone, I him besought. If further progress be to us denied, let us retreat together, tarrying not. The Lord who led me thither then replied, Fear not, by one so great has been assigned our passage. Vainly were all hindrance tried. Await me here, and let thy fainting mind be comforted and with good hope be fed, not to be left in this low world behind. Thus goes he, thus am I abandoned by my sweet father. I in doubt remain, with yes and no contending in my head. I could not hear what speech he did maintain, but no long time conferred he in that place, till to be first all inward raced again. And then the gates were closed in my lord's face, by these our enemies outside stood he. Then backwards turned to me with lingering pace, with downcast eyes, and all the bravery stripped from his brows, and he exclaimed with sighs, Who dare deny the doleful seats to me? And then he said, Although my wrath arise, fear not, for I to victory will pursue, howe'er within thy plot the enterprise. This arrogance of theirs is nothing new. They showed it once at a less secret door, which stands unbolted since. Thou didst it view, and saw the dark writ legend which it bore. Thence, even now, is one who hastens down, through all the circles guideless, to this shore, and he shall win us entrance to the town. Canto 9. The hue which cowardice on my face did paint, when I beheld my guide return again, put his new colour quicker 'neath restraint. Like one who listens did he fixed remain, for far to penetrate the air like night, and heavy mist, the eye was bent in vain. Yet surely we must vanquish in the fight, thus he, unless, but with such proffered aid, oh, how I weary till he comes in sight. Well I remarked how he transition made, covering his opening words with those behind, which contradicted what at first he said. Nathless his speech with terror charged my mind, for, happily, to the word which broken fell, worse meaning than he purposed, I assigned. Down to this bottom of the dismal shell comes ever any from the first degree, where all their pain is, stripped of hope to dwell. To this my question thus responded he, seldom it haps to any pursue the journey now embarked upon me. Yet I ere this descended, it is true, beneath a spell of dire Erichthos laid, who could the corpse with soul inform anew. Short while my flesh of me was empty made, when she required me to o'erpass that wall, from Judas's circle to abstract a shade. That is the deepest, darkest place of all, and furthest from the heaven which moves the skies. I know the way, fear not that can befall. These fens, from which vile exhalations rise, the doleful city all around invest, which now we reach, not save in angry wise. Of more he spake not, in my mind doth rest, for with mine eyes my every thought had been fixed on the lofty tower with flaming crest, where in a moment and upright were seen 3 hellish furies, all with blood defaced, and woman-like in members and in mine. Hydras of brilliant green begirt their waist, snakes and cerasts for their tresses grew, and these were round their dreadful temples braced. That they the drudges were, full well he knew, of her who is the queen of endless woes, and said to me, the fierce Arrhenius view, herself upon the left Megara shows. That is Alecto weeping on the right, Tisiphone between. Here made he close, each with her nails her breast tore, and did smite herself with open palms. They screamed in tones so fierce, I to the poet clove for fright. Medusa, come, that we may make him stone, all shouted as they downward gazed. Alack, Theseus escaped us when he ventured down. Keep thine eyes closed, and turn them thy back, for if the Gorgon chance to be displayed, and thou shouldst look, farewell the upward track. Thus spake the master, and himself he swayed me round about, nor put he trust in mine, but his own hands upon my eyelids laid. O ye with judgment gifted to divine, look closely now, and mark what hidden lore lies neath the veil of my mysterious line. Across the turbid waters came a roar and a crash of sound, which big with fear arose. Because of it fell trembling either shore. The fashion of it was as when there blows a blast by cross heats made to rage amain, which smites the forest and without repose, the shattered branches sweeps in hurricane. In clouds of dust majestic onward flies, wild beasts and herdsmen driving o'er the plain. Sharpen thy gaze, he bade, and freed mine eyes, across the foam-flecked immemorable lake, where sourest vapour most unbroken lies. And as the frogs before the hostile snake, together of the water get them clear, and on the dry ground huddling shelter take. More than 1,000 ruined souls in fear I beheld I flee from one who, dry of feet, was by the Stygian ferry drawing near. Waving his left hand, the vapour beat swiftly from 'fore his face, nor seemed he spent save with fatigue at having this to meet. Well I opined that he from heaven was sent, and to my master turned. His gesture taught I should be dumb, and in obeisance bent. Ah me, how with disdain appeared he fraught! He reached the gate, which, touching with a rod, he oped with ease, for it resisted not. People despised and banished far from God, upon the awful threshold then he spoke. How holds in you such insolence abode? Why kick against that will which never broke, short of its end, if ever it begin? And often for you fiercer torments woke. Butting 'gainst fate, what can ye hope to win? Your Cerberus, as is to you well known, still bears for this a well-peeled throat and chin. Then by the passage foul he back was gone, nor spake to us, but like a man was he by other cares absorbed and driven on, than that of those who may around him be. And we, confiding in the sacred word, moved toward the town in all security. We entered without hindrance, and I, spurred by my desire the character to know, and style of place such strong defences gird, entering, mine eyes around to throw, and see on every hand a vast champaign, the teeming seat of torments and of woe. And as at Arles, where Rhone spreads o'er the plain, or Pola, hard upon Quararno sound, which bathes the boundaries Italian, the sepulchres uneven made the ground, so here on every side, but far more dire and grievous was the fashion of them found. For scattered mid the tombs blazed by many a fire, because of which these with such fervour burned, no arts which work in iron more require. All of the lids were lifted, I discerned by keen laments, which from the tombs arose, that sad and suffering ones were there interred. I said, O Master, tell me who are those buried within the tombs, of whom the sighs come to our ears thus eloquent of woes. And he to me, the lords of heresies, with followers of all sects, a greater band than thou wouldst think, these sepulchres comprise. To lodge them like to like, the tombs are planned. The sepulchres have more or less of heat. Then passed we, turning to the dexter hand, tween torments and the lofty parapet.